Hey guys, it's Video Vince with Cam Exchange, and I had another fun video for you all today. We are going to be continuing on from last week's segment on building your in-home simple studio. Today we are going to be using two lights and colored gels to create some fun and exciting portraits. So let's get started. Alright guys, so I went ahead and switched over to the wide angle lens. That way I could show you all the gear that I'm using in this two light setup. So starting out, I'm going to be using the Godox 8200. It is going through the S bracket and I have a blue gel on the inside of this. So for the diffusion part, I'm using a ProMaster 61-inch conversion umbrella. So what that means is it has a silver lining on the inside and I'm shooting the light through it. That way it could bounce back through this diffusion and I have a nice soft blue light. This is also on the ProMaster LS3. And on the back I have here the Godox 8400, which is going to be my rim light. As you can tell right now, it is going to be an orange light. So the reason why I'm using these two lights is because if you look at the color spectrum, they're on the opposite sides of each other. And what that means is that they're just going to complement each other very, very well. And it's gonna be super nice. I'm also shooting it up against a black background. That way we can just really get those colors to pop. So instead of doing some self-portraits today, I thought I'd switch it up and actually use my wife, Rebecca, as the model. So let's get started. Alright guys, so that wraps up the photo shoot part of this video. I want to thank my wife Rebecca for helping me out and being such a good model. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to take these files to the computer, edit them, and see what we got. So let's get started on that. Alright guys, so let's go ahead and get into the editing process. So I picked out some photos from the photo shoot that we did, and you can tell that some of them are here. I got some of the bicolor ones, and then I also took one that had no blue in it, just some of the rim light that was the orange, and I think it came out pretty well. But the one that we're really going to focus on today is going to be this one. So let's go ahead and start editing. I am using Capture One. You don't necessarily need to be using Capture One to get what I'm doing. You could do the exact same process on Lightroom if you want to. Capture One is just the editing software that I use for my needs. But again, we're not going to get too crazy into it. All the same processes are the exact same on Lightroom. So let's go ahead and get started. So the main things that I really want to worry about is the exposure. So first I'm going to just go ahead and go to Film High Contrast, and that just changes the curve of the photo itself. This is a raw file. I shot it at 1/250th of a second, f2.8, and ISO 200. So I'm just going to add just a little bit more exposure to it. That's about good. I'm going to add just a little bit more contrast. Let's go about 10. I'm going to turn the brightness up just a smidge. Let's go to 5. And then I also want those colors to really pop. So I'm going to turn up the saturation to about 25. So just right there actually does a lot for the photo, okay? So I'm just gonna go ahead and go to the curve. Just turn the shadows down just a little bit more. Same with the highlights. I'm not really gonna mess with the highlights or shadows. I like the way the image looks just like this. So as you can tell, if I zoom into her face a little bit, there's a lot of detail in her face. That is due to the lens just being so sharp. So what I usually like to do is just create another layer. And then on that layer, I'm just gonna mask the face area here. That way I could go ahead and soften that. So let's go ahead and get into that. Just gonna zoom in just a little bit more. I'm gonna make that brush just a little bit higher. So I don't like to edit the lips or the eyes. It's all about just the skin. I'm gonna try to get as accurate as possible. So if I turn the mask off, that way I can kind of see what I'm doing. The way I like to soften skin is turn the contrast down. So I'm gonna turn the contrast down on that to about 35. And I'm also gonna go ahead and turn the clarity down to around 60. So as you can tell, way softer. And then of course you could add a little bit to the side if you want to. This is all just personal preference. That's how I like to soften the skin. That way it just makes it look a little bit nicer and pleasing instead of having so much detail in it. So that looks about good. What I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna switch over to Photoshop. That way I could worry about some of these stray hairs here. That way they won't be as distracting and take care of some of the lint that's on her shirt. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm gonna go ahead and open with Photoshop. Edit this. Boom, looks good. I'm gonna go ahead and create another layer. That way I'm not working on the original one here and it's not as destructive. So let's just go ahead and zoom in just a little bit. And the main things that I really want to take care of is some of the blemishes here. I like to use the spot healing brush tool. It helps out a lot and it seems to be just as magic, and I really do like using this one. So let's go ahead and clean up some of the blemishes that she has. So again, some of these stray hairs are what we're gonna clean up as well. Let's go ahead and work on some of these stray hairs up here. I'm gonna go back to content aware. You just don't want anything that is too distracting from the photo. Anything that catches the light just like that might throw the eye off just a little bit. So just taking care of those little things can really draw the attention to her face and the portrait itself. That worked out. There's still some specks on her glasses that I want to take care of as well. Go ahead and look around. There's some dog hair, stray fabrics, some lint. So that's it for Photoshop. Let's go ahead and switch back over to Capture One and see the before and after of it. So this is the after, obviously, and as you can tell, this was the before, switching over to Photoshop, obviously. But that's gonna wrap up this video. What I'll go ahead and do now is I'll go ahead and edit the rest of these photos, and I'll show you the photos at the end of the video. Also, just remember that every single thing that I used in this studio session will be linked in the description down below. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to drop those questions in the comment section down below. If you like this video, please give us a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. Check you guys out next time.